All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Preventing Data Exfiltration with a Layered Protection Strategy. I know we're in the home stretch of Ignite, so we really appreciate all of you spending some of your last moments at the Ignite conference with us today. My name is Vivian Ma, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Purview Data Loss Prevention, and I'm really excited to be spending this time with you today. In just a few minutes, I'll also be joined by two of my colleagues who are equally as excited as I am to show you all of the amazing innovations that we're introducing at Ignite in the realm of Purview data loss prevention. At this year's Ignite, we've introduced many innovations that span our continued effort to unify your data security program in one powerful platform with Purview, enable confident adoption of AI with data security and data compliance at the top of mind, and lastly, force multiplying data security teams using the power and scale of AI. Hopefully you've gotten a chance to be introduced to some of these innovations in other sessions, potentially even with hands-on labs, but we'll also dive deeper into all three of these areas of innovation in our time together today. So I want to take a quick moment to ground us in what's hopefully bringing us all here today, which is to learn how to protect your most business-critical data from being exfiltrated or leaked in ways that can be damaging to your organizations. This is by no means a new challenge, but especially in this era of AI, we see that having strong data security is more imperative than ever before. In a commissioned study from Microsoft, we've found that 88% of data security leaders anticipate raising their data security budgets for the next year. And 56% of these leaders say that protecting data from exfiltration or leakage is one of the top goals with this increased investment. As more and more organizations embark on their AI adoption journeys, we also see that 82% of data security leaders say that sensitive data leakage through Gen AI is their top concern related to AI adoption in their organization. And this concern is actually pretty well-founded in that we're already seeing that a third of data security incidents today involve the use of Gen AI by employees. So in order to adapt to this modern data ecosystem and the changing nature of how employees work today, we need to expand our protections for various types of emerging exfiltration scenarios. And predominantly, this includes data in transit scenarios between locations that are within the traditional corporate boundary that are leaving to potentially risky locations outside of that boundary. So let's walk through a few of those scenarios that we've been seeing from our customers, from our partners in this AI era. So if you could just entertain me for one moment, quick show of hands, how many of you are active users of Purview DLP today? Incredible. We love to see that. So for everyone who just raised your hand, I'm sure that you're very familiar with the existing protections that we have today in Purview for Microsoft 365 applications and Windows devices. For example, we have DLP controls that are embedded into Exchange that would prevent a user from sending an email containing sensitive data to an external user. Additionally, we have protections for trusted devices where data could be shared to risky, removable media, printed to, and then disseminated in ways that you don't want it to. But shifts in the way that information workers operate today have created new emerging scenarios that we must protect. For example, as more and more employees interact with a variety of cloud-based apps and services every single day, we also need to protect scenarios where data could be leaving trusted devices into unmanaged applications. This could take the form of employees using their personal social media accounts within a browser on their work device. And it could also take the form of employees leveraging their trusted consumer AI tools like ChatGPT or Google Gemini within the context of work. But every single time your employees interact with these tools, it's a potential exfiltration risk as well. Lastly, we're also seeing the rise of BYOD policies and contracted workforces, where these contractors or your employees using their personal devices are trying to access corporate resources from an unmanaged device. So this is also a new scenario that we must protect. So we have all of these new potential exfiltration paths, and naturally you're probably wondering what exactly we're doing at Purview to help you adapt accordingly. And we believe that the answer to these emerging data security challenges is a layered approach to data protection. So at the core, organizations want to protect their business-critical data. And users are often interacting with this data within enterprise applications. So that could be things like Microsoft 365 apps and services, but it could also be enterprise applications like Workday, Salesforce, and even proprietary line of business applications. That data could then be downloaded locally to devices, where it could be exfiltrated or shared out of the device. And that's why we have some of our existing protections, like we mentioned earlier, for USB drives, other removable media, printers, et cetera. But data could also leave the device in scenarios where users are interacting with web applications or desktop applications, and maybe even plugins for those applications that call on third-party cloud services. And that's why we've introduced data security controls for inline web traffic at the browser and at the network layer. So we can catch sensitive data that's in flight before it reaches those third-party destinations. Altogether, this layered approach to data protection, where DLP is embedded into every single potential exfiltration vector, is the comprehensive answer to protecting and preventing the loss of sensitive data from your organization. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Shekhar, who's going to take you through our first set of protections.
Thank you, Viv. Hey, everyone. My name is Shekhar Palta, and I'm a part of the Purview product team focusing on data security. Today, I'm going to walk you through some really exciting announcements related to how you can secure your sensitive data. And we're going to take the example of 𝗲𝗲. Now, 𝗲𝗲 is a textile manufacturing company which specializes in tech-integrated smart fabrics. And as an innovator in the smart fabric segment, 𝗲𝗲 is specially concerned about protecting their sensitive data, their crown jewels, their intellectual property. Now, 𝗲𝗲 leverages Microsoft 365 to enhance the productivity of its end users, so a lot of their sensitive data is stored in the form of Office and PDF files. In addition, 𝗲𝗲 also has sensitive data stored as manufacturing designs in CAD files, and they also have source code that they would want to protect. In addition, like many other organizations globally, 𝗲𝗲 is also undergoing the AI transformation. And this exacerbates the risk associated with sensitive data, as a lot of their employees are now leveraging Gen AI in their day-to-day. Let's see how Purview helps organizations like 𝗲𝗲 to protect their sensitive data holistically. It all starts with data security posture management in the Purview portal. Now, DSPM is that town square of Purview that helps you discover and get a view of top-line risk across your digital estate and very targeted recommendations in order to remediate those risks. During the course of Ignite, I'm sure a lot of you must have heard some of the exciting innovations that we've been working on in this space from some of my peers. And today we're going to talk about a few notable ones. The new experience in DSPM is anchored around objectives. Now, objectives bring together these detected risk patterns along with targeted recommendations to remediate those risks. For the purpose of this demo, let's dive into prevent exfiltration to risky destinations as the objective. When you click on this objective, you're presented with a list of detected risk patterns across your digital estate that are contributing to your cumulative risk. You can further scroll down and view details and insights related to this risk. In addition to all of this, you can also see, for example, what are the domains your data is leaking out to. For example, you can see gmail.com, drive.google.com, etc. In addition, you can also see precisely the activities that are contributing to your exfiltration. For example, upload to personal cloud storage, copy to removable media, or printing, etc. In addition, in the same context, within the same objective, you can also view the remediation plan that is available as a part of this objective. When you click on the remediation plan, you can see precisely the recommendations that we offer to address the risks that we just saw. Now, all of these recommendations are bundled together in the remediation plan, and you can see on the right the precise impact that is expected to reduce the risk when you put these recommendations in place. Now, these recommendations are a combination of your DLP and IRM policies, and when you click on each of these recommendations, you'll be able to see precisely the policy along with the description, conditions, actions that you can put in place to remediate. With one single click after you review, boom, this policy is put into place. Now, in the next section, I'm going to talk about some exciting announcements to allow you to protect exfiltration of sensitive data from devices and email. Tying back to what Viv was talking about, we're going to look at how to protect sensitive data sitting in your managed M365 apps like email, as well as the risk that is associated with your sensitive data from your managed devices exfiltrating to unmanaged devices. Let's do a quick show of hands. How many of you think the risk associated with sensitive data on your managed devices and your email is top of mind for a lot of organizations? And how many of you actually have DLP policies today protecting this data? Oh, that's a good, healthy number. So we're going to see in the next section, this section is going to be super useful for all of you. All right, let's take a real-world example. Now, Miguel is an employee of 𝗲𝗲, and he has access to a lot of sensitive corporate content on his corporate device. You'll also notice that some of Miguel's actions are increasingly becoming suspicious, especially as he handles sensitive data related to his latest project, 𝗬𝗏. Right, so you can see that this is an 𝗬𝗏 project document. This contains sensitive information, and now Miguel is attaching this file in his Outlook and trying to send it out to his personal email ID. Even before he could click on send, the send button is blocked, and a contextual policy tip integrated within Outlook shows up and it informs Miguel that this operation is not allowed. Next, he tries to copy this document to a USB device. This operation is blocked, and he is shown a Windows notification, a very familiar Windows notification that informs Miguel that this operation is not allowed. Now remember, irrespective of whether this file is classified previously or not, or whether you have just put in place the right policies to protect this kind of these kind of sensitive data, just-in-time protection for endpoint DLP always ensures that every single operation is evaluated with the latest protection posture. And in this case, this file was blocked from going to USB. Well, Miguel is not done yet. He opens the snipping tool, takes a screenshot of this document, and saves it as a PNG. Now let's see what happens when he tries to copy the PNG to a USB. Boom. This operation is also blocked. Now, endpoint DLP leverages OCR to detect sensitive content in images, and because there was sensitive content available in the image itself, this image is also blocked. All right, so far we have seen some of the existing capabilities that you can put in place today to protect sensitive data in your email and your managed devices. Now, in the next section, I'm going to take you through three exciting innovations that we are announcing today. Number one, you can now extend protection of sensitive data residing in your Windows devices to unsaved content as well. This is being announced in public preview today. Next, we're also announcing GA to allow you to put in place blanket protections for all of your unscannable files, files that cannot be broken open and scanned by endpoint DLP. And 3, you can take your protection one step further. We already have a premium labeling and encryption experience for Office and PDF files. You can take the same labeling and encryption experience beyond Office and PDF files as well. Now, I'm not going to drain these just yet. Let's build some suspense. In the next section, as I walk you through, I'll take you through these announcements in action, and we'll touch upon each of these. All right, let's go back to Miguel. Miguel is not done yet. He now tries to copy sensitive data from an existing sensitive file, saves it to a file that is not yet saved to the disk, and he tries to save this file directly to a USB. Let's see what happens. Boom. This operation is also blocked. Thank you, thank you. This is really exciting, guys. This was a key protection gap that we've heard from customers. And with this capability, you can now protect unsaved content from going out to either USB, through print, or copy to network share. Next. This is an example of a file, of an unsaved file that was getting printed as well. So you see a familiar block notification for this operation as well. Next, remember, CAD files are also sensitive for Java because they contain sensitive manufacturing designs. Now, in this case, a CAD file .dwg is attempted to be moved to the USB device. And this operation is also blocked. Now, tying back to announcement number 2, using this capability, you can now put blanket protections in place for all of your unscannable files. Now, this file is a CAD file, and remember, CAD files cannot be scanned by DLP. However, with this capability, you can put in place the right protections, and these protections can also extend to other channels like printing, upload to network share, etc. Now let's take the protection to another level. Now, you already know that we have a premium labeling and encryption experience integrated with Office and PDF. You can extend the same kind of protection to other files as well. Now, in this case, I have right-clicked on a CAD file, and I'm choosing to apply a protection label with Microsoft Purview. This opens the information protection labeling client. I'm now applying a highly confidential label that has an encryption associated with it for access control. Let's see what happens when I apply this label. You'll notice something very interesting. Even though I have labeled and encrypted this file, the DWG file, continues to exist in its original form on the disk. Now, this is possible through our announcement number 3, the third capability that we were talking about, which allows you to extend label-based protection and encryption beyond Office and PDF. This capability ensures that this file can stay in its original form on the disk, and your end users can continue to use their regular productivity apps as they work on these files. At the same time, endpoint DLP will continue to apply the relevant protections that come with that label. However, when this file moves out of the device where endpoint DLP cannot further protect this file, that is when the P file is created. Let's see this in action. So here, the labeled and protected CAD file is now attempted to be moved to USB. The end user sees a notification that informs him that P file creation is in progress. This operation automatically resumes itself, and finally, the P file gets copied to the USB. Isn't this awesome, guys? Thank you. So let's do a quick recap so far. So far, we've looked at the DSPM experience that can act as your town square for top-line visibility across risks in your environment, with recommendations to remediate them. We also looked at how you can protect Office and PDF files on your devices and email. We then looked at how blanket protections can be put into place for unscannable file types like CAD. And then finally, we also saw how you can take label-based protection beyond just Office and PDF without affecting end-user productivity. Now, this brings me to the next announcement, which I'm particularly excited about. We've heard feedback from customers related to expanding our discovery experience that allows them to discover sensitive data across their digital estate, especially as a lot of historical data needs to be discovered with the latest set of classifiers. This new capability, on-demand classification for Windows devices that we are announcing in GA today, which builds on top of the on-demand classification capability that already exists for SharePoint and OneDrive, allows you to run targeted scans across your entire device estate that allow you to discover what kind of sensitive data exists and where. This is really powerful, guys, because it allows you to discover sensitive data across your entire historical set of files that exist across your devices with the latest set of classifiers. And to top it all, this allows you to prepare your data for AI usage within your environment. Thank you. Let's see this in action. So it all starts with on-demand classification under data loss prevention and classifiers. You can start by creating a new scan. You name your scan, describe your scan, and then choose where to apply the scan to. In this case, I'm choosing to apply it for all of my devices. Next, you choose what kind of classifiers do you want to look for. In this case, I'm looking for all classifiers and trainable classifiers. And then you can also define the last modified date range for the files that you want to include in your scan criteria. Once you're done, you can review it and save your scan. As soon as you save the scan, it enters into what we call as the estimation mode. In the estimation mode, you can track overall what is the approximate number of files that will be included in the purview of this scan, as well as the billing information. And then once you're ready, you can click on Start Classification to enter into the classification mode. You can track progress of your classification mode. This is when the actual classification starts happening. You'll be able to see exactly the number of files that have been discovered. And for each of those files, you can get into items for review and view exactly the file and exactly what sensitive content within the file matched your scan criteria. This is really powerful. This helps you scan and classify your content and allows you to put in place the right protection policies to protect the sensitive content. This brings me to the end of my section, and I'll pass it on to Roberto to take you through the next set of exciting innovations. Thank you.
Thank you, Shekhar. It's great to be here, everybody. I'm Roberto Yglesias. I'm also part of the Purview engineering team. And right now, we'd like to move towards something that has been top of mind pretty much for every organization over the last year. And I'm talking about the data leakage to shadow AI applications. As Viv said earlier, we've always had this concern around information in trusted devices, exfiltrating to unmanaged applications like personal email or things like that. But over the last year, this has exacerbated as consumer generative AI has become ubiquitous on the lives of every information worker. And that includes consumer applications like ChatGPT, Claude, maybe DeepSeek. And while these are great for personal use, they don't carry the enterprise protections that we expect out of enterprise AI. And you certainly don't feel comfortable making sure that your confidential and intellectual property is shared with them. So, for this scenario, pretty much every organization at this point is including it into their strategy. And to help, at Purview, we have announced this week 3 inline data protection features to help secure your web traffic. First of all, we've announced our inline data protection in Edge for Business, which not only expanded as it went GA to more generative AI applications this week, but also added file upload protection. We'll deep dive into it at a high level. This will bring you built-in capabilities of Purview policies right into Edge without needing any other dependency. And then second, we announced the general availability of bringing Purview data protections to the network layer, something that we have heard for a long time from customers that you wanted us to help here, and that has been really critical in the age of AI, especially for that text getting transmitted to AI APIs. And we're doing this through the great partnership with many of the SASE leaders in the industry, and more coming soon. And then finally, we started our journey of bringing data protection to our own Microsoft SASE product of Entra Global Secure Access. And we're starting that journey with file protections for the network and being able to look through those. So let's take a look at these in action for our example organization, 𝗲𝗲, and how it works there. So if I am back on the Purview portal that Shekhar was just showing me as 𝗬𝗲, the data security admin, I will go to the data loss prevention policies, and there, when I click to create a new policy, you'll notice that I have a new option in the DLP policies. This is because the new inline web traffic policies are geared at protecting that web traffic as it's leaving trusted devices, rather than protecting the enterprise applications that we typically have used, which still remain on the enterprise applications and devices. Now, I'll choose my inline web traffic and then give it a quick name on the policy. And then next, I get to choose the cloud applications that I want to apply this policy to. Now, I could choose to and these are internet applications, by the way. They're not in any way connected to the organization. So I could choose to select some of the applications from our catalog of tens of thousands of internet applications, even maybe looking through specific categories to help me with this. But what most likely you will do, and I'll use for this case, is go to our adaptive application scopes, which are automatically maintained groups of applications that as our catalog evolves and expands, we maintain for you. So you don't have to do any of the work of targeting different applications as the next set of AI applications show up. So I'm going to select the all unmanaged AI applications, since I'm really concerned about 𝗲𝗲 IP leaking to these shadow AIs. So once I've done that, I have now selected my group. I now can scope who this policy will align to. This should feel pretty familiar, and you will be able to select any specific user or group, or even agent if you were in the Agent 365 announcement. Or I could choose all users and exclude only some of them, which is highly requested by customers. Or in this case, what I'll select, which is just purely select all users in my organization. Now, when I do that, I have already scoped my policy. The next thing that comes is I get to choose where this policy will apply. In this case, I have the option of having the policy enforced only in Edge for Business or only on the network, or in this case, I'll show you both scenarios. So I'm going to keep both turned on. And this is the simplicity of being able to have one single policy that goes across all of your web traffic. Now, the rules experience should feel pretty familiar for those of you that are already familiar with Purview DLP, except in this case, our conditions and actions will be tailored to web traffic. So I can select the right conditions. In this case, I'm going to go look for 𝗲𝗲 core IP, and I'm going to restrict and block both the text and files being uploaded to any of these locations, like AI locations that I already selected. So with that, I'll review and turn on my policy right away, review my settings, and I am good to go. My policy is created, and now I can see it on my list of policies. So let's see it in action. What does this look like in an actual managed device? let me flip over to Miguel's managed device at 𝗲𝗲. Now, first thing you'll notice is I'm in Chrome here. 𝗲𝗲 is an organization that lets end users choose their browser to use for any reason that they deem appropriate, as long as it's protected appropriately. Now, in this case, I can use Chrome, for example, to go do personal things like check my webmail, go into Amazon, no problem. But if I try to go to a site that is protected, like ChatGPT, which is meant to be protected by a Purview policy, I will be blocked from accessing this in Chrome, as Chrome, in this case, is not respecting Purview policies. So it will funnel me to use a browser that can enforce those policies, like Edge for Business. So I'll go ahead and open up Edge, and from there, I can go into ChatGPT, no problem. Again, many organizations at the beginning of the AI revolution thought about, let's just simply block access to all of these applications. But the reality is they are become part of each one of our lives. So in this case, I can use ChatGPT as Miguel for any personal reasons. I could use it for some research. I could talk about my upcoming travel, and it could give me recommendations. But what 𝗲𝗲 does not want is any kind of confidential or intellectual property leaking to ChatGPT, because it's not a sanctioned enterprise AI. So if I come in and imagine I type in this kind of prompt that asks for a briefing, help me summarize and prepare a briefing, but I include as part of it some of the confidential data related to 𝗲𝗲's unique way of doing their smart fabrics, then as I try to submit that prompt, before it has ever left the device, it has ever been put even on the network, I will get blocked by Edge for Business. And this is possible thanks to Edge for Business natively understanding Purview policies and being able to understand how it should enforce it on its web traffic without requiring even onboarding the device into endpoint DLP. All it requires is that the user is logged in into the device as the corporate user, or using its Edge work profile to log in into that credential. So, thank you. This has been highly requested for customers because they really wanted to protect those things. Key aspect here, this works not just for basic classifiers, it works for every Purview classifier. Exact data match, trainable classifiers, any of your advanced classifiers are supported here without any impact to productivity. Now, you may say, okay, great, browsers are covered, but what if Miguel decides to do this in ChatGPT's desktop application? Because if that's allowed for personal use, that may be another vehicle in which the information could be leaked. Now here, if I try to send the exact same prompt using ChatGPT's desktop application, I will also be blocked, thanks to our network enforcement. Now, this is possible because Miguel's computer, all of its internet access traffic is being routed through 𝗲𝗲's SASE provider, Netscope. And thanks to our Netscope partnership, Netscope One is able to understand and enforce Purview policies. So that single policy that I created in the Purview portal spans to not only Microsoft, but also partners that support that for enforcing web traffic. And we also have, thank you. And we also have integrations with iBoss and Palo Alto Networks, with more coming soon. And as I mentioned, of course, with our own SASE of global secure access. Now, one of the most dangerous places that this may show up is in places where information workers are not aware of AI using consumer-level generative AI behind the scenes. So for example, if Miguel is working in Word and using a plugin to help with this IP registration, he may not notice that this is not enterprise ready. And when he actually tries to use it, we'll notice the same network enforcement blocking the action and preventing that exfiltration to unsanctioned AI, even if it's coming from a plugin or any other application that is trying to communicate via this network's device. Finally, we've shown you how you can protect all of the information coming out of trusted devices. Everything that is a managed application, like we showed with, we protect SharePoint, Microsoft 365, all of those. We showed also about your trusted devices. But not every device in the organization can be a trusted or managed device. In today's cloud world, a significant amount of devices are unmanaged and you can't apply your policies to. Now, of course, the first instinct is always, well, we will just block access for all of those devices to my enterprise SaaS applications. And if you can do that, that's great. That is one way to prevent that. However, most organizations can't do this. Either you have vendors or contractors or simply consultants that are coming on and needing to access those applications, and it's not feasible or makes much sense to provide them with devices or to make sure that the only way to access them is to make them fully managed. So to help with these scenarios where you need to provide access to your SaaS application, we have a new announcement this week, which is we now have data security controls for unmanaged devices via Edge for Business. Thank you. Edge for Business, in case you haven't seen all of the announcements this week, I would highly encourage you to go back and watch some of the great sessions. I think there's one, actually, a theater towards the end of today as well. Edge for Business has announced a lot of capabilities that make it the only secure enterprise browser of the age of AI. It's the only AI browser with the appropriate enterprise protections. And in this case, for data security, what that means is Edge can understand natively, it has in the code that's running in every device in the world that uses Edge, whether it's Windows or Mac OS, it understands Purview policies. So let's see it in action. I'll flip over now to Miguel's personal device. Oh, before that, let me set up the policy, sorry. I forgot to set the policy first. So I'll set up first the Purview policy. I will start in the DLP policies and go to my enterprise applications this time. So as I go to my enterprise applications, then you'll notice that at the bottom down here, I can select a Managed Cloud Applications option. That Managed Cloud Applications lets me select any instance of an application that is connected to Entra for authentication and single sign-on. And so in this case, I'll select very quickly SharePoint, although I could be using this for any other non-Microsoft application. It could be Workday, Salesforce, anything like that. But I want to secure the access to SharePoint when somebody's coming from an unmanaged device. I'm going to select that, and I'm going to set up a rule that protects Java Core IP when it's being accessed from an unmanaged device from being downloaded in a file. I'll create this rule, and I'll create a couple of additional rules that are related to copying the information if it contains sensitive data and printing information when I access from an unmanaged device. So with that, I turn my policy on, and I'll review and finish, and my policy is created. All right, now let's go to, for real, Miguel's personal device and see this in action. So in Miguel's personal device, this one's not connected to Java at all. And like I said, this could be a Mac device as well as Windows. So in here, what I'm going to do is try to access in Chrome SharePoint. Very quickly, what I see is that access is denied, and I'm prompted to use a supported browser, in this case, Edge. As I switch over to Edge and click on that link, my session is shared as being monitored, and then I am able to access SharePoint. Now, this is all possible because, as you see on the top, I have already logged in into Edge in my work profile. So because of I logged in into that work profile, we are able to make that a mini managed endpoint of Purview. And so if I try to download a file with public information, no problem. I can download that and it works. But if I try to do that with a file that has sensitive information, then that will be blocked because we're scanning the file real time as it starts to download. Now, if I try to open it in Word to circumvent this issue and actually try to copy the information, once again, the policy will block me from being able to copy that sensitive data. Now, you may have seen all of this and think, how does this work when it comes to my alerts and incidents? All of that flows through to your incident management naturally. And today, this week, we also announced our data security triage agent to help with the volume of alerts that all of you had told us is very critical. So what does that experience look like? I'll just go very high level, and there's another session later this week. Tomorrow morning, you can dive into these. So I get a new option to enable my agentic experience, and as soon as I do, you will see that all of your alerts are now put into 3 buckets, whether they are something that needs attention, it is less urgent, or has not yet been triaged by the agent. Each one of these triages contains all of the information, like if somebody had gone in and done a full report, including the security risk, the exfiltration risk, as well as the policy risk. And we go beyond just the fact that an alert was triggered. We also look at the actual content and all the information and context we have about that alert. But also new, if you need to have an information worker update their file and tell Miguel that he needs to remove that sensitive data, the agent can reach out and help with remediation via Teams and even remind them if they don't reply quickly. Yes, I know that will save a lot of work. All right. Shekhar and I walked you through a lot, but this is all the different innovation that we have to protect in the age of AI. I'll have Viv come up and close us off with everything we had.
All right, thanks, Roberto. So we hope that all of the demos that we showed you today are helping you envision how layered protections through Purview, which are already available to you today, can be applied in your own environment to protect data in this age of AI. Shekhar walked us through all of the exciting improvements in endpoint DLP to prevent exfiltration from devices, including expanded protections for file types beyond Office and PDF. Next, Roberto walked us through our inline data protections for web traffic to prevent sensitive data from leaking to third-party cloud locations, whether those interactions happen in the browser or in situations where it's being shared from devices to third-party cloud apps over the network. Lastly, we also walked through a scenario where users may attempt to access enterprise data and corporate resources through personal or contractor devices. So in addition to the inline data protections that you saw today, which are on the right here for browser and network, we also wanted to take a final moment to just recognize how far Purview DLP has come. Over the past 2 years, we've invested significantly in protections that span your more complete data ecosystem. In addition to expanding on our core protections for Microsoft 365 and Windows, we've expanded into an ecosystem of third-party SaaS applications, built-in protections in Fabric to protect your structured data estate, and last but not least, also built-in data security and data compliance controls for your enterprise AI like Microsoft 365 Copilot and Copilot Chat. There's another session a little bit here that you can also join in about an hour where they will deep dive into these protections for Copilot. And on that note, we invite you to attend all of the remaining data security sessions for Purview at this year's Ignite conference, as well as catch up on all of our Purview data security announcements. And lastly, Today's session only gave you a taste of all of the exciting DLP improvements we've introduced at Ignite. And here we've offered our full list of announcements. We definitely encourage you to take photos and follow up using that blog link so you can catch up on exactly what all of these announcements are. So with that, we're coming up on our time, and we want to thank you one last time for joining us today for our session, and we really hope that you have an amazing rest of your Ignite. Thank you.